it out. So the first question I got from a very nice coach from Austria, I'm not going to mention his name for safety reasons, is he's been playing with hip rollout. So stuff from the tremendous trunk treat. And his question was, what is important when doing hip rollout and why does it work? Awesome question. So the whole purpose about the hip rollout is we're teaching muscles moving bones. So what does that mean? The hip rollout is an awesome exercise to literally teach your hips to stay in a neutral position while keeping your glutes engaged and moving your body somewhere. So this is the first step when we're trying to get someone on the page of what is tension, etc. By the way, if you're watching the live video on Instagram and you have a question, I'm going to wave to more now. And if you have a question, just put it on here and I'm going to try to answer it. So the hip rollout is a really good step of starting to teach people, okay, what's an actual neutral hip? So let me dive in a little bit. There's three positions your hips can be in, right? So when I talk about hips, I talk about the pelvis, so the stuff that can rotate. I'm talking about the SI joint, so that's the lower back stuff up there. I'm talking about the big thigh bone, and I'm talking about all those three things together. So whenever I talk about a hip, that's the three things I'm talking about. Again, that's the big thigh bone, that's the pelvis, and that's the SI joint. All right. So there's three positions your pelvis can be in, right? It can tilt forward, so that's called the stripper position, so to speak. It can tilt backward, that's when you squat down all the way down, which is in my world called the butt wink. And there's everything in between, and that's a neutral hip. So whenever there's a need for your hip to be loaded, so when you're squatting or when you're deadlifting, your hip should always be in a neutral position. Neither the tilting forward nor tilting backwards is meant to be loaded. And that's what we're just seeing a lot in training. And that's where a lot of issues or injuries or just plateauing just literally happens, right? So the hip rollout is a good first step of teaching people that neutral hip concept without the hips actually moving somewhere, which is always nice. All right, so that's what the hip rollout is literally for. So the way we do it, the videos on the traveling circus, is we're limiting the range of motion. So you're grabbing a rollout and just rolling out. But the whole point is about the hip, right? So your hip needs to be fully pushed through. A lot of times when people do rollouts, we see like the hips tilting weirdly towards the front, and they just want to like get as far out as possible without actually paying attention to what the tension should look like. So that's what the hip rollout is all about. Literally learning, and super simple, broken down is, okay, keep your booty squeezed once you roll out. Stop rolling out once your booty releases like a little bit of tension. That's when your hips start tilting. And as you guys know me, my big topic is muscles move joints, and that's how we're going to start with our normal people. But that's the hip rollout, and this is probably one of the first exercises we're going to do. If you want to see the whole sequence, the tremendous trunk treat sequence, it's on a traveling circuit. It's a template. It's got all the videos in there. It's awesome. Try it out. Give me feedback. Give it a shot. So that was the first question of today. What is important and what does it work? There's a lot of scaling options for the hip rollout too. Why is scaling important? Scaling is not important for making it easier for people, but scaling is about, okay, what's my actual goal for that exercise? And it's always going to be about tension with position, right? There's a lot of people out there trying to teach tension, and there's way more out there trying to teach position, like centering joints. I'm doing both at the same time. So the only point about the hip rollout is, can you maintain a neutral hip position with the right muscles being engaged? And if necessary, we could do a rollout on like an incline bench, for example, or even just starting with the rollout on the wall for like super weak people, which is totally fine. The whole point is, okay, can you keep your hips neutral while doing the ab rollout, right? So that's why I want to step away from reps and exercises and schemes to teach people, okay, this is what we need to do in order to get to a neutral hip. All right, makes sense? Cool. Hi, Josip. Good to see you at least.